Hello, Soberinos, and welcome to this week's Friday Fix, which today is titled Why Going Sober is Less Than Easy. And I'm putting the less than easy in inverted commas for a reason. Now, the reason I want to talk to you about this today is because I want to highlight the importance of the language that we choose to use when we're describing our present and our future experience of living life sober. Now, again, I have my notes here to refer to because I want to make sure that I cover everything. The first thing that I want to say is that I do notice a lot of people when they are describing living their life sober, or even if they're not yet living their life sober and they're still drinking and they're thinking about living their life sober, is that a lot of people use words like it's really hard, it's a struggle, it's a battle, it's challenging, it's hard work. I've seen phrases like uphill struggle. I've seen phrases like it's like going up a down escalator. I've seen expressions like every day is a struggle. Now, any of these phrases are what I would describe as demotivating. If I'm thinking of living my life in a hard way, in a challenging way, in a struggling kind of way, in a battling kind of way, or that it's going to be like going up a downwards escalator, or that it's going to be an uphill struggle. If I'm using those kind of descriptions to describe living my life sober, to me, those descriptions are very demotivating. They don't make it sound appealing or attractive to be living my life sober. And what those descriptions do, in fact, whatever descriptions we use, whatever language we use to describe something, kind of sets up an expectation in our brain that that's what the reality is going to be like. So if I'm describing living life sober as hard and challenging and as a bit of a struggle, what that's doing is it's setting up an expectation in my brain to experience life sober that way. In other words, I'm going to create the reality that I'm describing. So the words, the language that I'm choosing to use are going to create that same expectation in my brain. And the way that the brain and the mind work, it means that that's going to bring that reality to life. In other words, we create our own realities through the language that we choose to use. Now, the reason that I'm saying that going sober is less than easy is because less than easy is a better phrase to use than hard or work or challenging or struggle. And the reason it's a better phrase to use is because the word easy is in there. Now, our unconscious minds work in really interesting ways, and some of you will have already seen, in fact, you might have already seen some of my videos where I talk about the relationship between the conscious part of our minds and the unconscious part of our minds. And the reason I'm doing that for the conscious part of us and that for the unconscious part of us is because over 90% of what we do, how we think, how we behave, how we feel is governed and driven, if you like, by this 90% of our unconscious minds. Only 10% of our actions, our behaviours, our thoughts, our feelings, how we speak, what we say, only 10% of that, even less than 10% of that, is done consciously. So 90% plus of what we do, how we think, how we feel on a daily basis is driven by our unconscious minds, and our unconscious is kind of resorting to familiar patterns and habits and routines. Everything is on automatic. We're not even thinking about it. We're not even conscious of it. And so it's really important to kind of get our unconscious minds on board when we're changing a habit, when we're changing a behavior, when we're thinking about living our lives sober. We need to really get our unconscious minds on board, because when our conscious and our unconscious minds are kind of on board together, going in the same direction, it makes life so much easier for us. And by using the phrase less than easy, we're implanting that word easy into our unconscious minds. And we are suggesting that living life sober at some level is going to have that word easy in there. It's going to be easy on some level. Less than easy implies that there's a more than easy. There might be an easy in the middle and there's a less than easy, but easy is in there somewhere. And the way that our unconscious minds work, it's really interesting, it's fascinating, it's really complex, and I'm not going to even begin to try and explain it. But by throwing that word easy into a description of living our lives sober, even when we're saying it's less than easy, just gives our unconscious mind that suggestion that easy is in there somewhere. Now, we want to be realistic. We want to expect there to be some work. We want to expect there to be perhaps some challenges thrown in our way, and that it is going to be less than easy at first. But that over time, the more we practice, the more experience we get, the more confident we become with living our lives sober, the easier and easier that it becomes. So that eventually it's more than easy. We're not even thinking about it. So I'm encouraging you today to think about throwing the word easy into your descriptions of living your life sober. And if you need to be realistic about the fact that it is some commitment, it is some work, it is some practice, at the beginning, by all means use that phrase less than easy at first. It's going to be less than easy at first while I'm practicing, while I'm learning, while I'm gaining in confidence, because I am ultimately going to be super confident with living my life sober, and it's just going to become easier and easier and easier until I'm no longer thinking about it. And I'm encouraging you to get prepared with some phrases that are really empowering, that are really motivating for you. So for me, empowering and motivating phrases would be things like being sober or getting sober is joyful. It's liberating. It's inspiring. It's life-giving. What else have I written down here? It's rewarding. I think the words rewarding and life-giving are super empowering for me, but you can choose your own empowering and motivating words. And when you're thinking about living your life sober, use those empowering words to describe it. And if you're in the early days of living your life sober, or you are thinking about stopping drinking, and you are aware, you are conscious that it's going to take some work initially to do the practice, to gain confidence before it becomes easy, you can start to use that phrase, less than easy. It's going to be less than easy at first before it becomes super easy. So there are ways of describing and choosing language really carefully to describe what living life sober is like, to make your unconscious mind, which is the driver, the unconscious mind is what's driving us, and we want to use these words and phrases to convince our unconscious minds to create a motivating, empowering reality for us. We want to create a really helpful reality rather than an unhelpful one. So, actions to take away are: start by noticing. If you notice yourself using words like hard, struggle, battle, disempowering and unhelpful words to describe what life is like when you're living it sober, just notice. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when you notice that, just reframe it. Rephrase it into, it's less than easy. Throw the word easy in there to help your unconscious to start creating the reality you want, that's going to be motivating, empowering, joyful, liberating, and hopeful. And thirdly, choose some empowering and motivating phrases and words that you can have at the ready to describe your life when you're living it sober. What kind of words and phrases are going to be empowering and motivating for you? I'd love to hear what they are, so do share them in the comments below. I will look forward to catching up with you in tomorrow's Saturday Share, and I will also look forward to catching up with you in tomorrow's Go Get Sober live session that is going to be at 9 a.m. UK time. I'm not even going to try and convert that into different parts of the world and wherever you are in the world, but you can use a time converter to do that. If you'd like to join me for our first Go Get Sober live session tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. UK time, then do pop me a message in the comments below or send me an email, jo@gogetsober.com, where I am so looking forward to having a live conversation with you, answering your questions, encouraging one another, boosting our strength, boosting that sense of community and togetherness, and all in a safe space where we can give each other the support and encouragement that we need. So I'm really looking forward to that tomorrow morning. But if I don't see you there, I will catch up with you in the Saturday Share. In the meantime, though, folks, let's go get sober together. Bye for now.